couple people here with us tonight. First of all, we have a former commissioner of Demas here with us tonight, Tom Kirk, a great guy, great commissioner. Tom, please stand up and be recognized. And I would be remiss if I didn't mention the next individual, because Wilfredo Nienz and myself both think that he's very, very important. The chairman of higher education for the state, co-chair of it, Senator Steve Kuzana. Please stand up, Senator. I really think we shouldn't count time in years, but in heartthrobs. We shouldn't measure people by what they have, but by what they do. Not by what they see, but by what they choose. By those measures, Jeff Walter is a giant of a man. And it gives me a great honor now to introduce Senior Vice President from the Hartford Healthcare Group, Jim Blazer.
Larry, you are a tough act to follow. Thank you. I'm really pleased to be here tonight and to honor Jeff. You've heard a lot about accomplishments. They've been written up and people have talked about them. What I'd really like to talk about is leadership. And because without Jeff's leadership and what he's been able to accomplish, probably wouldn't have been able to happen. And in my title is a new part of my title, which is Transformation Officer, which is really about taking the changing environment and trying to adapt Hartford Healthcare to what's going on in the environment. Well, I would say that Jeff Walter actually deserves that title long before I ever received it, because he's been transforming Rushford and the whole field of addiction and behavioral health for a long, long time. And you can see that in all of his accomplishments. And when I think about leadership, what I like to talk about is the values of Hartford Healthcare, which are caring, excellence, integrity, and safety. And you know, it's easy to talk, but it's harder to walk the walk. And what I see in Jeff and what he's been able to do is really walk the walk when it comes to our values. So I want to take each one for a second and talk about what I think Jeff's been able to do. So when I think about caring, Jeff deeply cares about his organization, deeply cares about the programs that he's been able to develop, and we've seen a lot about that. But more importantly, he cares about the patients and the community and the employees that work with him. And it requires a special capacity to be able to do this. And Jeff's track record of being able to provide these types of programs for people that change their lives is really the testament to what he's been able to accomplish. When I think about excellence, you know, in healthcare, everyone demands excellence. It's expected of us. And whether that be in our field, whether that be with the providers that work for us in our profession. But beyond the excellence that we're able to provide at Rushford and within Hartford Healthcare and behavioral services that Jeff has really influenced, Jeff went well beyond that when it came to excellence. And when I think about what he's been able to do in the community, in the legislature, and then the national stage, he has changed excellence and the meaning of excellence in behavioral health and addiction services well beyond what we're doing right here in Connecticut and influence things for years to come. Integrity. For more than 30 years, Jeff has seen a lot of change that's been going on in our field and will continue to go on, both in mental health and addiction services. but I think Jeff's had a special calling in being able to deal with what's changing in society, and many of us would duck these issues. We wouldn't take them on. And Jeff has taken them on and shouldered them in a way that really makes me proud to have been part of, having been part of the organization. And it's hard to admit, but while I was Jeff's boss, I didn't know what he did on a day-to-day basis. We would have meetings. I knew a lot of what he did. I didn't know everything he did on a day-to-day basis. But I do know this, with his integrity, I never ever had a doubt about his commitment, his conviction, or his absolute integrity in carrying out what we did in the absolute best way possible. And finally, safety. It's important to provide a safe environment for our patients, for our employees. But beyond that, what I observed about Jeff is he created an environment within Rushford where it was safe for people to speak up, say what they thought, and help improve the entire organization, because it takes a village to do this. It's not just one leader. And leadership is raising everybody up to be able to have the contribution of everyone within the organization, and Jeff did this really, really well. So with that, Jeff, I'm really proud to be able to say a few words here tonight. I appreciate all your commitment and all your accomplishments and your service, but most of all, you've been a role model for me and a friend, so I appreciate everything you've been able to do. Thank you.
Will all the board of directors of Rushford please stand and be recognized? I know there's a lot here. Just to show, please stand up and be recognized. Thank you for your great service. We have now some former employees and employees of Rushford for some remarks, and it gives me great honor to introduce Kathleen Whalen home first.
So I've spoken at a few retirement parties where I got people off guard, but don't worry, Jeff, I'm not going to do that to you. It's chicken. So, can you hear me now? Yes. So, what do you say at the end of the evening when everything has already been said? So I'm going to talk about how extraordinary you've been in my life. This is a man who walked into Rushford on Crescent Street to meet the employees, and there was only one other employee. And the thing that Jeff did was he had a vision. Jeff had a vision of what services should look like for the people that we serve. And he set about making that vision come around. When I came to Rushford, a couple of small programs, but Jeff had a vision, and I sat in rooms and I listened to him and I say, how is he going to make that happen? Or how are we going to do that? How are we going to do that? And I watched and I learned and I listened to him. Jeff was talking about the state money being managed before we even knew the language, but he saw that coming and he wanted to prepare Rushford so that we would be able to respond. That's when we were talking managed care and everything. And I would just marvel at, how does he know these things? How does he see these things? And it was just very clear to Jeff. And then how to organize a community to make these things happen. And Middletown was such an exciting community to work in, and Jeff was an exciting person to work for because he saw these things happening. And he would talk about them, and I'd be go, okay, what do we do next? What do we do next? I mean, he just was so inspiring to people. And I never wanted to work for anybody else. I would talk about him at any workshop I went to when I was down out of state or anything. I'd say, Jeff Walter, you got to come and meet my CEO, Jeff Walter. What you taught me was when there's setbacks, how to look for the opportunity. Jeff never allowed me to, or any of his employees to stay in a bad space for a very long time. It was, how do we fix this? Let's go forward. And more of the vision would come out. And, I'd say, how does he see this stuff? How does he make this stuff? That's what, you taught me to look for all the opportunities. You taught me to not make the small piece the whole. Don't get so focused that you can't see the bigger picture. That's what you taught me. Some of the nicest conversations we had were as I was getting ready to retire, and we talked about getting beyond this and being friends. And I can remember driving back from Florida and texting Jeff, where are you? Where are you? Where are you? Let's meet in Charleston, have dinner together. Those kinds of things. My ongoing connection with Jeff Walter has meant so much to me. But Jeff, you're a kindness. You are such a kind person. And the things that I think of most when I think of you, I think of the kindness and the goodness in your heart, and the dedication and the compassion and the commitment to the clients that we serve. Because that was mine, and that's where we could always connect, and that's where I could always, even if I didn't agree with you on something, I knew you were focused on the good of the clients. And was my commitment and your commitment, and I think we really connected there. You're a great person, and I hope you will always be in my life. So, thank you.
Very wonderful remarks and heartfelt. It gives me great honor now to introduce an individual that has been very special to me, helping out the chamber, myself personally, just a wonderful former Rushford employee, God Shukru.
I'm going to talk a little bit about what I taught Jeff Walter. One of the biggest things was patience, because he did have to have quite a bit of patience. He was always a good sport about stuff. I heard that the picture of you in the dress was in the pictures, but someone took it out.
That was me.
Do you remember that, Jim? We actually made him get dressed up. I wasn't responsible for that, though. I do want to keep my name clear on this particular issue. But in those days, when we were small, there was this wonderful camaraderie that developed, and I think it really created the foundation for what came afterwards, and how we were able to grow in the ways that we were able to grow. Now, I really love this man, and I've never made too many bones about that, his wife knows. In fact, she just introduced me to one of your cousins and said, this is the woman who was Jeff's boss for many years. Someone from DCF once asked Jess, what do you do at He said, well, I'm the CEO. Oh, I thought that was Dottie Shagru. Believe me, I always said to him, I like being on the Starship Enterprise in the second role. You don't change when you're on the best ship. And it was a great ship that explored all sorts of wonderful and fabulous things. I mean, I remember the night that Jeff called me at 3 in the morning and said, the kids are yours. And that was when we took over the program at Curtis Home. When I came to Rushford, I was really very excited about bringing programs to kids and doing that early kind of stuff that could help kids make connections, and even if they got in trouble down the road, they could come back someplace and talk about it. And that happened a lot in my life. I met some of the most wonderful people, young people. They're still young, but very young people at that time, and I can honestly tell you some of them are here tonight, and I'm very proud of who they are and who they've become, because they're pretty fabulous individuals. Some of you might not know, Jeff really had a thing for nuns. He's a Jewish boy. His first clinical director was a nun, Sister Mercy, and let me tell you, she didn't have much mercy. And when I started, Sister Agnes, and when I started at Rushford, I was in the community. Of course, I left because I could see I could go someplace and maybe have a little money in my pocket and still do some of the great things that nuns do in society, because I was working with this guy that was a very enjoyable man to work with. And we accomplished Jeff and I accomplished some really great things together, and I'm very proud of that. And I'm very proud that he was able to give me kind of the space and freedom that I needed to develop some of those kids' programs. And they are still continuing at Rushford. But Kathy Ohm is right on the mark when she talks about Jeff's vision, because there was always something going on in that head. And he would bring it to us to get our feedback back. He always brought everything to us for our feedback. He had the idea, but he brought it back and wanted to know, what would it take to get this operational? Is this a feasible thing? And that's why we, I think, did so many innovative things. I once heard someone talk about people who have work wives and work husbands. I think I was one of those. And it's really a tremendous joy for me to honor him this evening. He is my very dear friend. We've been through good times and not so good times, but he has always been my very good friend. And I've loved his family. I've watched them grow up. I mean, there was a time when Jeremy would run down the corridor and jump into my arms. I hope he doesn't do that tonight. It was just a joy to watch these grandkids grow up and to watch his daughters and his son grow up, to know Carol and Deb, and I want to take a moment to honor Carol and her memory, because she is with us tonight, for sure. That's what my faith teaches me, and this is work she believed in. This is a pretty incredible family. Carol and Jeff, who did so much for people in the state. So I honor you, Mr. Walter. You are a great man, and you will still do great things. Thank you.